Look, up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. No, it is a bird. It's the Quirky Bird Show with your host, Robin Savage.
Alrighty, welcome to the Quirky Bird Show. I am your host, Robin Savage, where we talk about all things quirky in the comedic arts. And for those of you watching on the webcam, you may see a familiar face here, Miss Paparazzi, Miss Diva with her big sunglasses. Charlotte Cakes, how are you today, my friend?
I'm in the witness protection program tonight.
I tell you, I am so excited about this show.
I know, because I'm here.
Yes, because you're here. We also have some awesome guests. Our theme today, our topic is comedians who do one-man or one-woman shows. So that's our topic, and we've got some fantastic comedians calling in who do either a one-man show or a one-woman show. Our first guest is going to be Rainey Lawrence. I don't know if you know of him. He's actually taken a couple of his shows to the Edinburgh Festival in Scotland.
Wow.
Yeah, Scotland, I say. And he's gotten some accolades there.
That's great.
From the other coast of Florida, we have Franny Sheridan calling in. She has a one-woman show. She's got several, but the one that she's kind of sort of her claim to fame is when she was younger, her family, like she was a little kid, her family had to flee the Nazis, and they went to Canada, and they still got persecuted, so they had to like give up who they were, like their Jewish faith, and pretend to be Catholics.
Really?
Yeah, and not only did she make a one-woman show out of it, like it's comedic.
Wow, that's the shit.
So
that's really cool. That blows any of my living in North Carolina with the redneck stories out of the water. I thought I had it rough.
You didn't have to pretend to be Catholic.
I didn't. I had to pretend to be white, but I still sound it.
Which leads us to our last guest, someone that I'm so excited is calling in.
Yeah.
Rain Pryor is going to be calling in. She is doing a one-woman show, and it's off-Broadway, but it's indefinitely off-Broadway.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's like saying, like, I'll give you an indefinite stand-up gig at the Improv. I mean, there's no end time to it.
Is it the same show? I was reading about Rain today, and she did one that was like, I can't pronounce it, latkes and something.
You are so not Jewish. Fried chicken and latkes.
Yeah, I don't know how to say that.
So fried chicken, her father was a very famous Richard Pryor,
right?
Like comedy legend.
Right.
So that would be the fried chicken.
And her mother
part.
was Jewish.
And her mother was Jewish, so that'd be the latkes part.
I see.
And so that's sort of the combination of fried
very
chicken
cool.
and
Yeah,
latkes.
I saw a clip of it today. It was funny.
Good times, yeah. And she also, I know she does some stand-up as well, too.
Yep.
And she sings. I mean, she's sort of like a triple...
She is. She even wrote a book. She wrote a book in 2006.
A quadruple threat.
Yeah, totally. She's like got it going on more than Vanessa Williams. For real.
Well, before we start, as always, I want to always throw out the quirky question of the day. And I've been hanging out with you a little bit this week, so I kind of had confessed to you that I was a huge slug on Sunday, and all I did was watch the Oprah Winfrey Network, which inspired my quirky question of the day.
Yeah.
And so we got a little deep and got a little, a little heady here. So my quirky question of the day is, when you create art, does it bring you closer to God? I'll pose that question to you since you are my co-host today, my friend.
We talked about that a little bit yesterday.
Okay, thank you.
And it's a really deep question. Of course, I don't know the answer. I'm kind of like in the Bill Maher school of I don't know what the word is, but he preaches the religion of I don't know. So I'm kind of an I don't knower. But I have, like we were talking about yesterday, I have written things or words have come to me, and I've often thought, well, where did that come from? That didn't come from my brain. I don't have a clue where that came from. So, it could be that there's some kind of divine intervention when you're feeling really creative, or Maybe I just don't give myself enough credit. I just don't know.
But you do feel like maybe there's a
I think there's a possibility, yeah.
I feel when I'm on stage and I'm killing it, I feel happier than almost anything on this earth makes me happy.
Yeah.
So
it's really cool.
Yeah, real quick, because I know we have a guest on the line. I always promise to shout out to the people who answer the quirky question of the day. Michael Freed, he said, when I create art, I hope God's not watching. Otherwise, I'm not going to be meeting him.
Oh.
Susan Sager, a good friend Susan Sager of Eating Raw Wool fame, she said, when I create art, it brings me closer to my truth. And some people would say, once you get close to your truth, that in itself is God. So, our good friend Long Island Mary, we did some stand-up with her yesterday. Lim, as Charlotte so affectionately calls her. It says, I do not personally feel spiritual at all when creating or performing comedy, but I feel strongly that comedy is an art and can be spiritual. I feel connected spiritually at a concert, a theater production, at art museum, but not comedy shows.
That's a good point. That made me think of something. It kind of jogged my brain that wasn't working a minute ago. And, I write poetry, and I think that's when I feel that way. That's when those words come into place or those phrases come into place that I just don't know where they came from. I mean, I could be that smart, or it could be something more.
It's more, you feel like some sort of divinity when you're writing more of the poetry.
Yeah, so words will just come into me that I don't even know where they came from. And I think we talked about this yesterday. I will be writing away, and then a word, like a big word, will pop into my head, and I'm not really sure of the meaning, but I'll stick it in there thinking, what the heck does that mean? And I'll look it up, and it fits perfectly. So
very cool.
I don't know. I think our brains are
bigger
than we know. Yeah.
Okay, just a couple more shout outs to my friend Dean. He says he feels like it brings you closer to God. It lets the power work through you. Maureen Sullivan, who is on our show, she says it's she feels like the higher power does inspire her artwork. She actually just wrote a book. And Tara Zimmerman, she says, of course, a higher power inspires creation of all great music and art, even comedy. However, sometimes some of the lyrics may not be
godly.
Back it up, then stop. Drop it like it's hot. Drop it.
Don't you love it when those rappers, after they write a hit, like drop it like it's hot? The first thing I want to do tonight, I want to thank God for giving me the inspiration to write Drop It Like It's Hot. I don't know, man.
Well,
whatever works.
We have our first guest on the line. We have Rainey Lawrence. Rainey, how are you doing?
What up, Robin?
Oh, thank you so much for calling in. I have not seen you. Are you there? Can you hear Nolan? Hey, Rainey, are you there?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I'm here.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I don't know if you've been listening.
I can hear you.
Okay. Thank you for calling in. You actually were, when I first started stand-up comedy, you were my comedy teacher at the Tampa Bay Performing Arts Center.
Yeah, for a couple of weeks.
For a couple of weeks, and you got yourself a fancy schmancy gig in Washington, D.C., so I hadn't seen you in quite some time. Now, we are talking about comedians who have parlayed their art into a one-man or one-woman show, depending on if you're a man or a woman. And you've done a lot. You started out as just a typical, I shouldn't say typical, but a traditional stand-up, and you went to a one-man show. What got you off the comedy stage and onto more of a theatrical, like, one-man show?
First of all, comedy does bring you closer to God. And I say that because I'm a self-absorbed perennial existentialist. So comedy brings me closer to me. So, Rodessa Jones, I don't know if you know the name, just a hurricane of a solo performing artist. I saw her do Big Butt, Hard-Headed Girls, and I just thought, man, there's so much more mileage out of topics and subject matter in the form of a theatrical solo performance that's allowed in, a hyper-capitalistic society. So I started with my first one, which was Rainy and Surround Sound, and here I am 9 one-man shows later.
Well, you also you've done a lot at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. I mean, you've gotten some accolades there. Did you bring a couple plays to Edinburgh?
I took first trip to Edinburgh was 2002 with a show that was just took over the Fringe. Was a stage show called Bombardie of Errors, and on the side, I did a lot of comedy while I was there and made a lot of connections, which allowed me to come back in 2006 with a one-man show, Cufflinks and Jolly Ranchers for Dummies.
Sounds
And,
delicious.
Doing both trips were just amazing, and ever since it's been my platform to introduce more American comedians to the idea of export.
Charlotte and I were talking, and she was saying that she didn't know if she could do a one-woman show, and I was saying I think the advantage would be is you don't have to like machine gun your jokes. You could actually be a little serious if you wanted to, or you could do a longer setup, almost like a storytelling sort of setup.
Well, yeah, you can do both. The great thing about getting out from the club atmosphere and where the bar is the driving force there, and the audience is sitting there in the theater, and it's almost like when you go into a bookstore, it's not quite a library, but everybody's quiet. When you go into a theater, the transmitters and the receptors have all agreed that we're going to listen, we're going to hear you out. And so it allows you to take your time and build and marinate in certain things that you have to drop and jump into your punchlines a lot faster in the comedy club scene.
You do. Especially if you're doing a bar where sometimes they go in there and they eat chicken wings and watch like the baseball Rays play. Their receptors are looking for.
Can you imagine hecklers during a one-woman, one-man show? That'd be really strange.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's pretty bad when you're getting you're doing everything from laundromats to sports bars, and even when you get in a traditional comedy club, there's something that lends itself. Everyone's Facebooking about the latest comments from Louis C.K. and Daniel Tosh and the controversies there, but there's something about a comedy club that encourages an audience to test you. Whereas when you're in a theatrical, people are being handed a program and they're sitting down, something says, okay, this person's validated, and I need to sit back and just enjoy their show. Because even if you're a headliner in a comedy club, you're making an appearance. When people come to the theater, they feel like they're seeing your show. And that does a lot to take away some of the annoyances that the typical audience member thinks we are supposed to have.
Well, I was going to say I've worked a few theaters, and I have noticed that they really do come to. I mean, even just as a stand-up, they really do come to listen and
more
sort
respectful.
They come to listen.
Are they
There
drunk?
is my last one-man show. I opened with a close to 10-minute diatribe that I was so aware that in a comedy club, boy. Actually, I did it in a comedy club once, but I was smart enough to pick the pace up about 3 times faster. And it worked, but it didn't have the same thunderous, closing to introduce the show that I had in my one-man show, where I just could take my time, let the audience know what's on my mind, and then bam, you just have more room to play. It's like, I don't know if you're a sports fan, but it would be like going from arena to National Football League.
you just have like more room to, I guess, stretch your legs and do what you want to do artistically.
Yeah, you have more room to play. You're in more control. The audience, just by the situation and the social convention, is more. They're put in a position to hear you out more and to see where you're going. Yeah, the comedy club atmosphere says, and I love it, but it says, how many jokes you're going to hit me with in a minute. The solo performance says, I wonder what's on your mind. Oh, and you're going to make me laugh too? Okay.
It is. It's almost like a rat-a-tat-tat with the comedy club scene. It is. It's almost like how many I actually know comedians who try to get like a laugh in every 8
7 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I I don't, I'm not one to do statistics on that for myself. I'm not going to drive myself that crazy, but I'm aware of the fact that my pace and my pace and my energy picks up in a comedy club because I'm so aware. Okay, especially in America. When you go abroad, some of the UK audiences will let you actually sit in something and marinate in it for a bit.
I was going to ask you that too. I didn't know. Do you ever have problems with the humor translating, or because it's a comedy festival and it's so international, you get a lot? I always thought, would that be hard to like go to Scotland and have
No,
your
it's
jokes?
tougher for them when they come here. I mean, that's the benefit of being an empire. They know our culture.
I guess
They know who Kim Kardashian is. Sadly,
That's a good point.
They know, yeah, they know our top music, movies. But do you know any musician from Scotland except for Rod Stewart?
Well, the guy, the late night guy.
The bagpipe rapper. That's one laugh for
Right.
Chardonnay.
Yeah. Point. Thanks for helping me make that point.
Craig Kilborn, isn't
But
he
yeah,
Scottish?
it's one of those things. You get over whether you're in the UK or even at a punchline in Tokyo. The audiences, they know our culture.
That's a great point. I've often wondered about that.
I went. This was.
I discovered that in Dublin, and it's not like something that. It's one of those things that I was in the middle of a set and just like, wow, I don't have to. I was concerned about how I was going to maneuver and finesse some of my jokes, and I didn't have to. They know our culture.
In 1994, I visited my brother, and he was living in Japan at the time. And I can't even tell you how many times we were going through a mall or just someplace in public, and Snoop Dogg came on. Like I must have heard Snoop Dogg more in Japan than I heard in the United States.
Oh, yeah.
So I know what you're saying, Rainey. They love
Hip-hop is
our
huge
culture.
in Japan.
Yeah.
Hip-hop is huge in Japan. So is drive-bys. Just kidding.
Hiya!
Yeah, it's a different kind of drive-by.
Yeah.
It's a chop-by.
Now, you and I have been texting back and forth a little bit, and you know that Rain is going to be calling later on, and you have a connection with her. Do you want to explain? Because it's a pretty cool connection.
Oh, it's a really cool connection. Calvin Winter was producing a show at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival called Best of the Fest with Paul Provenza. And he had asked me to come see it, and he was thinking about having me come on the show. The show that I came to see, where I was an audience member, was Brendan Burns, who the following year in 2007 won the Edinburgh Fringe Festival's Best Comedian. And the other guest was Rain Pryor.
Nice.
And it was awesome. And then after that show, Calvin Winter asked me to come on a couple of days later. I got to do the show myself. But Best of the Fest is the show that you now know on Showtime as The Green Room, that they had workshopped at different festivals for 4 or 5 years before Showtime bought it out. And that very night that I saw Rain, I met her along with a mutual friend who's a producer out of Chicago named Marshall Cordell.
That's very cool. I've seen the Green Room with Paul Provenza, and I mean, I'm a really huge comedy geek, so I just watch it and slobber. But yeah, that's...
Oh, man, it's awesome.
It is. It's a very
what
fantastic
a great forum
show.
for comedians.
It does. And Paul Provenza, I mean, he's just perfect for it, so it's awesome.
No.
Now,
Yeah.
Now, Rainey, you and I are actually going to be working together this weekend. You hooked me up with some fancy schmancy Straz gigs.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, here we go. Let me raise the noble flag behind me. But just trying to make another opportunity for comedians in Tampa. It's always my complaint. As someone who teaches stand-up comedy, I know the difference between the turf and Tampa Bay area and New York has nothing to do. It's not like the weather or the buildings make comedians in New York more polished. It's a repetition. It's the opportunities. And that's what I want to see happen. I see all the talent in Central Florida in general, and I know that if we can get the comedians to have more opportunities, get more stage time, that's what we all know that.
That's great.
That's what we need. That's what makes you a better comedian.
Oh, absolutely.
And yeah, and this is just the first of many attempts to do that. So.
Okay, and it's a stand-up
Yes.
series at the Straz, except we're going to be in the
Yes,
Tico
it's called
Theater.
Stand Up Here, and it is the best of comedians you've never heard of. We are going through a list of really, really top-notch, hilarious comedians. I'm old enough to be from the time when I first started comedy, that before Eddie Murphy and the big boom changed things in the early '90s. I'm from a time, just briefly, that they used to have the funniest guy always closed. I don't care what your credits were. That changed when movies became such a big play for comedians. And so now, one of the results of that is no matter how funny you are, there are comedians who've been out there 20 years. If they haven't been in the Avengers or the latest Wes Anderson movie, they have to open for a guy who sometimes is not as funny as they are.
Absolutely.
And so one of the things I'm wanting to do with Stand Up Here is not only provide another opportunity, but put together top lineups of hilarious comedians, whatever part of the journey they're on in their careers, that people can come and go, you know what? I didn't even know this person existed in my area, and oh my God. And they start making a connection with the comedians and start supporting them even more so from that point of view.
Well, I was going to say, a lot of people don't know I exist. So.
Yeah, me neither. CharlotteLangley.com. CharlotteLangley.com.
Well, Rainey, thank you so much for calling in. We kind of have some back-to-back guests. Thank you so much for calling in. You were awesome. Anything that you want to plug, your website, your Facebook, your Twitter?
They'll find me eventually.
You're
but
so zen.
Come see Stand Up Here, 813-229-STAR. Come see Robin.
Hey, what a great voice he has. Very articulate.
You do. Thank you so much, Rainey, and I will see you this weekend.
Bye.
I'll see you then. Bye, babe.
He was great.
He was my comedy teacher, and he got some gig in D.C. and then Tony God came over.
Yeah.
And Tony God, he's a pretty
Yeah.
well-known comedian in
Yep.
Tampa. So I got a variable.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And speaking of godliness, his vocabulary was pretty holy. I mean, seriously. He's a self-serving, perennial, something or other.
Existential.
I almost fell out of my chair. Isn't that something? I was like, is that a plant? Existential, perennial.
I was going to say I often get teased for using fancy schmancy words.
That's a good teasing. I can't talk today. Just woke up from a nap, folks.
So we have another caller on the line. As I was saying, we have Franny Sheridan. She is from the east coast of Florida, and she is on the line. She has a couple of one-woman shows. How you doing today, Franny?
Hi, Mary. So nice to meet you.
I'm Robin.
Everybody does that, right?
Oh, Robin, I'm getting such feedback on this line. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. I hang out with my friend. Did you want to hang up and we call you back to make the connection stronger?
Can we try that?
We
Sorry,
sure can.
Robin.
Oh, no problem.
Sorry,
We sure
let's try
can.
one more time.
We
Okay,
sure
great.
can. Okay, we're gonna banter now.
Banter. Banter. I was thinking bantams. Those are chickens, not banters. The left side of my brain is asleep, folks. That's what's happening.
I actually took a quick little nap as well too.
Yeah.
We were out last night, Charlotte and I,
Oh,
doing comedy
man.
in Sarasota, and it was a great comedy night.
It was. We
And
got home at I got home 1 a.m. Same for you.
I did not. I had one sip of a beer, and I felt hungover for a very long time.
Same here. And mine was a Michelob Ultra. What's up with that?
Yeah, that's like a lady beer.
Right.
So, Franny, are you back on?
Hi there. I'm so sorry. I got another call when you called in, and anyway, everything is good now. I don't think we have feedback, and I'll start over. Pleasure to meet you, Robin.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Franny.
Hi, Franny.
And we have my good friend Charlotte sitting with us as well too. We're talking about.
Hi, Charlotte.
Hi. My sister's name's Franny, but continue.
Oh, is it? Okay, it's Kwirky Dink. Now you have not only a one-woman show, but you took probably something beyond serious, and you tried to, or you did successfully make it a comedy. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the background of your first one-woman show?
Sure, Robin. Well, my first one-woman show, I just need to clarify, it is not a comedy. It is it is a show that's rife with humor, but it has a lot of poignant and even dramatic parts. My first published play, which was my first solo show in 1995, is called The Waltonsteins. And I co-wrote it with, yeah, right. It was like it was a stand-up of of course, the famous television show in the 70s, The Waltons, right? And I co-wrote it with a fabulous writer, dear friend of mine named Lynna Goldar-Smith. And I'm originally Canadian. We were living in Vancouver, and I had absolutely no desire whatsoever, Robin and Charlotte, to do anything about my family in terms of disclosing like anything vulnerable or truthful. I was trying to be funny. I was, trying to carve out a little bit of a niche for myself as a young stand-up comic. But, I heard your conversation earlier discussing art and God and all the sort of interwoven juxtapositions and all that. And all I can say is that I kept coming up against crippling anxiety. I'd be really lucid on stage, and then all of a sudden I'd have like this anxiety, and I didn't know what the heck it came from. But like I had sort of an internal voice that said, tell your story, tell your story. And, at first I thought it meant just like write and perform shtick.
Yes.
But then I pardon me?
Oh, yeah, I was just agreeing with you. I'm sorry.
But so then how these things roll in life. Serendipitously, I was approached by a small-time theater producer in Vancouver who wanted me to write a solo, largely dramatic show. And one thing led to another, and so I did. And I was terrified because in my show, basically, I reveal a family secret that I was brought up never, ever, ever to disclose. And that is that both my parents are Jewish Holocaust survivors, but because they escaped Europe by like literally a whisker,
Wow.
and when they were in Canada, they were nearly killed. My dad was nearly killed by a German doctor in his office. Wow. And that doctor and the doctor's wife were fined $30 for assault. So my dad's like his post-traumatic stress disorder, which, back then there wasn't even a term for that. Was, well before Vietnam. It was triggered, and he thought, what's the point of being Jewish? I'm going to lose yet another family, and this time in Canada. So by the time I was born, he had converted our family to Catholicism, anglicized our family name, relocated us to another town, cut off ties with any of our existing relatives, and, we were Catholic, and my last name, he changed our name from Siegel to Sheridan, and I went to Catholic church religiously every Sunday, and, Catholic school, so you're a little kid. You don't know what to compare. You don't have anything to compare what your reality is to. So that's what I thought we were, until one day he slipped up, at the dinner table and mentioned something about a Jewish. And I was like, well, Daddy, what's a Jewish? And then he began to tell me all these Holocaust stories, which really, So all of a sudden my Walt Disney childhood became really dark and foreboding and creepy, and and he also, admonished me after telling the stories, daily and repeatedly, never ever tell anybody these stories because it could get you and our family killed. So that's the last thing I wanted to do as an artist. But he made me the keeper of the stories, and all of us, who are the keeper of our stories, whether it's reflective of where we are as adults or children or a combination of both, those stories have to get out if we're writer performers. And so it bubbled up, and as I said, I wrote my first play in '95, and I ran the idea of turning our family story into a solo show by my family. And you can imagine, they were not exactly thrilled about it because they thought that it would be a very bad idea. And I actually received, threats of that legal action would be taken against me if I did. But something just compelled me to go ahead and do it.
Okay.
Say it again.
Oh, so your family was trying to stop you in the legal way to keep you from doing this one woman show about such a family secret.
Exactly. But it was like I was drawn to do it, Robin. Something just pulled me ahead, and luckily, the power of truth-telling and created this enormous healing within my family. After the very first performance in 1995, which was in this tiny little 100-seat theater in Vancouver, there happened to be, like as these things, auspiciously are, there happened to be this journalist in the audience who wrote an article in a magazine called the Jerusalem Report magazine, which is distributed internationally, and I immediately got like a ridiculous amount of attention, but beyond the media and the sort of the success of the show and all that, the one of the most sort of impactful things was that, I don't know if you remember, because I'm giving you a monologue here, but my extended family members who my dad had cut off from our family when he had gone underground as Catholic and relocated and everything, a number of them, happened to, right, as these things are, happened to read that magazine. And I started getting very moving phone calls, like, from all over the world of these people who, were telling me that, I'm sitting on the, Chesterfield reading my favorite magazine, the Jerusalem Report, and I see your family, and I read about your family story, and, like, they tell me that they've been looking for us, searching for us for over 45 years.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
So that, it was really powerful, and it created, enormous healing within my family because I was, able to reconnect us with our long-lost relatives, and we had this very public reunion, which was turned into a radio documentary, broadcast twice internationally on NPR,
I was about to say it should be on
attracted legendary film director Arthur Hiller, who I had the incredible good luck of working with for 12 years on a film version of my story. I'd written a multicast feature film, and yada yada yada. So, that was the beginning of my journey with solo shows.
Wow,
what a great story
that is. Now, was your father? No, I mean, it was absolutely fascinating. Did your father ever know about this, or?
Yes, and here's the coolest thing. Like, I have to say, the most heartwarming bit for me as a daughter is that, my dad was retired at the age of 86 in Vienna, where he was from, as a Catholic.
Oh, gosh.
As a Catholic, because he was still totally crippled by terror. Plus, Austria is still not, shall we say, free of anti-Semitism. But but he also, it's like New Yorkers. New York is not quite, but it's just like, to Viennese people, Vienna is like, there's no city that will ever be more beautiful, even with, all of the bumps and sores and stuff. And my dad wrote me a gorgeous, gorgeous letter of thanks, which is really my feather in my hat and has now become part of the fabric of my solo show, which I read it to the audience. So that's a great thing. And he re-identified himself as Jewish. And this is not a story about religion. It's truly a story about being comfortable in your own skin, whoever you are. It's because, the Nazis really do not, they don't give a shit if you practice Judaism or not. If you happen to have some Jewish blood in your family, then you're considered to be a problem. It's about all of us being able to just be comfortable in our own skin.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone told me one time, like, the line was 1/16. Like, if you could be, if you were past 1/16 and up, then you were in jeopardy, and past 1/16 was. So you're right. It really.
1/16. I wonder where they came up with that.
I don't know.
The whole thing was crazy.
It was.
I went to the Holocaust Museum when I was about 17. It was one of the most moving experiences I can ever remember. So I can only imagine.
Which museum did you go to, Charlotte?
The one that I went to was in Washington D.C. I think that's the.
Oh
main...
yeah, I've been there. My uncle, who passed on a couple years ago, was a very well-known rabbi, and he took me there.
It's incredible.
And he was actually called up to the White House to be one of the survivors, together with Elie Wiesel. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's a very famous survivor and author. And some other, like, amazing survivors to light candles. This was just, I saw it actually live. It was really amazing. To light candles to remember the 6 million, who were lost. And, but I just also want to make clear that, in my show, I pay homage to the fact that, yes, of course, the Jews experienced the greatest loss, undeniably, with the Holocaust. But it was also, so many other groups, gypsies, homosexuals, were targeted and murdered. And I just find it very important to say that this is all of our story. Any kind of racism, sexism, all of that. It's not exclusive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a universal, I guess, unfortunately, it's a universal story that can be related to really a lot of people, a lot of groups.
Yeah. What a great story. I would, by the way, I would read the book. I would watch the movie. It's really good stuff.
Well, thank you so much, Franny. I now looking back, I could have had all these guests, just the guests.
Yeah.
Put them all back to back. You are more than welcome to call in any time. I would love to hear more from you. Is there anywhere place our listeners can do you have a website, a Facebook, or what's your next project you're working on?
Sure, I have all of that. Well, my current show is called Confessions of a Jewish Shiksa,
Okay.
Dancing on Hitler's Grave.
Okay.
And I wanted to give you some backbone to the story, just so you knew that. I mean, there is a lot of humor in it because it was ridiculous, in the sense that very Jewish sounding and looking people were pretending to be Catholic. So that's, without getting into it, there's a lot of humor there. And I also, as a child of survivors, feel it's really important to make fun of surviving my childhood, which is, a little bit irreverent and, really hasn't been done too much. Mel Brooks, hit on it with a little bit, tackled it a little bit with Springtime with Hitler and the Producers.
Okay.
But, making fun of those things. But I think the best thing I can say is my next performance will be at the Colony Hotel in Palm Beach of Confessions of a Jewish Shiksa, and that'll be in October.
Okay.
And I perform every month when I'm in town. It's a character comedy show called I Tried to Be Normal, but it was taken.
Okay.
In West
I
Palm
like
Beach.
that. I like that.
And that's all about the duality of culture, but it's really it's a comedy show. It has stand up, and then I go right into this character that's actually half black and half Jewish. And my website is my name, FrannySheridan.com.
Okay.
So FRANNIE Sheridan.com. That's moi.
Okay, thank you, Franny. That was an absolutely fascinating interview, and like I say, I'd love to have you back.
I know.
And
I have more questions to ask
I do too.
her at a later date, please.
My pleasure, ladies. Thank you so much
Yeah,
for
it was
having me
great.
on. Great show.
Oh, thank you,
Have
Franny.
a good night.
You
many,
too.
Many thanks. I'll be back.
Okay.
I'll talk your ear off.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All three of our guests have so much in common. It's so weird.
It is. It's like this black
Interwoven
Jewish thread that
we have two Rain people's names that start with Rain.
Rainy and then Rain Pryor. Yes, very good. Do we have her on the line? Okay, we're going to banter again.
A funny little side story. From the time I was a very young child, I always wished that my name was Rain, at least my middle name. I used to tell my parents that all the time, like, why couldn't you call me Rain? I always wished my name was Charlotte Rain.
Charlotte.
Yeah, seriously, it would be cool, right?
It would, Charlotte Rain. I mean,
Yeah.
you're a comedic person. That instead of going by Charlotte Cakes, why don't you go by Charlotte Rain?
She's on the line.
She's on the line. Okay, folks, we have our third and final guest of the evening. As promised, we have Rain Pryor. Hi, Rain. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Oh, thank you so much for calling.
Good.
She has so much energy. Hi, Rain.
Hi.
We have my co-host Charlotte here. And today we're talking about the folks like you who do the one-woman shows. And I've been seeing via the world of Facebook that you got picked up indefinitely for off-Broadway show.
I did.
That's really
I did. We actually start our previews this weekend.
I was going to say, I knew like I was in like a little window frame. If I didn't get you this week, I probably wouldn't get you indefinitely.
Cool. Yeah.
I'm so glad.
Well,
I'm glad it worked out.
also, happy birthday. Didn't you have a birthday yesterday?
I did. Yeah, I just turned 43.
Okay.
Yeah. Happy birthday. I saw
Thank
that.
you.
I saw
Thank
she
you very
tweeted.
much.
She said something about I woke up still looking good. So good job.
Now, Rain.
Everything's still the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Everything where it's supposed to be. Now, obviously, you're just the title of your play alone kind of gives that it was probably your life story being a fried chicken and latkes because your father is legendary Richard Pryor and your mother was Jewish, correct?
Yes, my mother was Jewish and also from an entertainment family, so it seemed like, I guess, the right fit. And she was also a go-go dancer, not a stripper, because, back then they just danced. And I always have to tell people she didn't take her clothes off, although she then says maybe she did, so I don't know. But
I just figured you had the go-go boots. That's the only thing I had in mind.
Go-go boots, right.
Okay,
So, yeah.
So, and did you had a run on this in the early 90s, and you've brought it back?
Yeah, I had it was in 2000 is when I first started to do fried chicken and latkes, and it ran for many, many years and toured. And then my father passed away, and so I stopped doing the show and then realized everyone kept saying, you really should be doing your dad in the show. So I rewrote it and put more of him, put him into it, and of course, and talked about, his death in it.
Yeah.
As well, and it's fun to take people like on this journey. Like you laugh, you cry, then you're laughing again because we Pryors aren't very good with our emotions anyway. So we tend to we'd rather laugh than like feel our own pain. So I'm glad at least the audience seems to go along with that.
Well, that's what we were talking earlier in the show about the difference between doing a stand-up and like a one-woman show, and it does give you the opportunity to be serious or to take longer, divulge longer pieces of your material, so you're not just shotgunning the jokes.
Right, exactly. And I mean, and that's what I really dig about it. It's funny because for so long everyone's like, you're really doing stand-up. Your show is like stand-up, and I refuse to believe them. And I guess now because I am doing stand-up, I'm like, oh, I guess it is like, stand-up, but I like you said, I can have those moments where you can't have it during stand-up because then the audience just kind of looks at you like, we're not laughing.
Right.
And you're like, because I'm in the middle of telling the story. They don't care.
I
Especially
watched
if they're drunk, they really don't care.
I watched a clip of your show today, Rain, and I wrote down a quote because I enjoyed it so much, and you said, be a strong black woman, but pull it back a little. And that just made me laugh out loud.
Right.
It was awesome. And it was just perfect.
But it's so true.
Yeah, totally. I get it. And it's funny, I don't often have the chance to talk to another entertainer that's half black and half white, because I am too. So I completely related to what you were saying. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was awesome. I loved it.
Right on.
Part Jennifer she had this great quote. It was like, be part Jennifer Aniston, part... I can't even remember. It was really funny.
I don't even remember. That's what's sad. I'm like, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was good.
Well, I've watched a lot of your father's work, and he's not like the modern, I guess, comedians today. He's more of the Bill Cosby school. Like your dad was more of a storyteller when he took the stage. He wasn't a one-liner guy.
He's not a set-up punch guy, not at all. And I'm, and I realize too, I'm not either. Like I mean, not that I don't like that stand-up, but we're such in this generation of everything has to happen right now.
Right.
So everyone's like, I got to get that laugh in right now. And I'm like, no, I'm going to take you a little bit over here for a second, and then you'll laugh.
Yeah.
But sometimes, late, like I said, the 10 o'clock crowd, maybe not a good idea.
Oh, God. No, the 10 o'clock crowd's just drunk. That's what they are.
Yeah.
I watched some
exactly.
I watched some of your stand-up today, and you are a storyteller, but she really sucks them in. Like, they listen, and they're in it. She sings with them. I actually had the pleasure of watching you do an impersonation of your dad today. And, I mean, it was on point. You have to watch it. She's got all this stuff on her YouTube. It's like free entertainment at work.
Awesome, thank you. And that's so I get to do bits of that in my show, which I really love.
Yeah.
And for me, it's kind of like, he's not here, and so many people loved who he was, and it's my way I get to honor him, and then the audience gets to kind of see him again, and that I really love. Like, I love the feeling they get from the fact that I'm doing him.
That's great stuff.
And I was so terrified. And if it wasn't for this actress, Nora Dunn, who said, you really should be doing your father on stage, I never would have done it.
Yeah. I'm glad you're doing it.
No,
Now,
thank you.
you said that you had done this prior to your father being sick. So, what had he seen this show? I mean, I know it's sort of evolved over the years, but had he at one point seen
Yeah,
the show?
because I asked him, could I do him in the show? And I also do some of his material, so I wanted to ask him if that was okay. You know, so I did it for him, and he just looked at me like, wow, and said, well, yeah. And then he was like, did I write that? And I was like, yeah, that's yours. It's like one of your famous bits, Dad. I was like,
He didn't even know. That's awesome. Oh, man.
I also read somewhere, I've been researching a lot, it sounds like Charlotte has too. I also read somewhere, because your father suffered from multiple sclerosis, that you work with the charity, you're an ambassador for them now.
I was an ambassador for them. I haven't done it. I mean, I still speak on behalf of multiple sclerosis for the Multiple Sclerosis Society. But I was an ambassador for actually a drug company. And of course, my dad passed away, and they were like, we don't need you anymore. And that's when I realized, you guys suck.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I was like, okay, well, you know, and I still do what I do for MS because, it does affect many people, and not everyone's going to end up like my dad, which is awesome.
Yeah,
you know, and now they're coming out with even better and more kind of great things for people who just diagnosed. So I'm just like, wow, this is, and of course I'm sure there's a cure somewhere, but drug companies don't want you to have the cure, So
yeah,
they just want to pump you with their drugs.
Don't get me started on that one.
That's a whole other show.
Right?
This show will take a hard left. Okay, so I got to ask a Charlotte Dork question. Okay, so I got a Charlotte question for you. I am a total Richard Pryor movie junkie. Like Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder, it's just like my thing. What's your favorite movie that your dad did?
My favorite movie of my dad is Lady Sings the Blues.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's a great one.
I loved Lady Sings the Blues. Yeah. Just because it was the first time for me that I saw. I mean, one, I was really young at the time, and I didn't realize him as an actor. Now my favorite stand-up of his is Long Beach, live in Long Beach concert. And that's when I realized, because I also was there live, and that's where I realized he is a very funny man.
Yeah.
Oh.
I remember watching him live on the Sunset Strip, I think, and seeing Jesse Jackson in the front row. I was like, what? Jesse Jackson?
Right.
He's totally sitting there watching. It was awesome.
That's hilarious. With his big fro at the time, too, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was great. My movies, I love a couple. Silver Streak. I just love Silver Streak. And the other one, I can't remember, but he's driving the bus of the bad kids across the country.
Oh, isn't that the toy? Oh, no.
No, not the toy.
Yeah.
What is
Busting Loose.
Busting Loose. Love that. I'm going to go home and watch
like
it.
a prisoner. He's supposed to go to jail or something.
Yes.
And, yeah, right.
And when he had his meltdowns, oh my God. It was great.
I love the part, like, in that movie where, like, the Ku Klux Klan shows up and helps them push the
button
of all,
and
like,
you know what?
the different colored kids. Like, that was the most awesome thing.
I realized
like,
something. I realized something funny. I've been, I would watch your dad's movies, and I realized a lot of things that David Chappelle would do on his show he had to have been inspired by your dad. Like, I'm not sure if Rain, if you ever, like if you ever watched the.
No, I'm so.
The skit where
I'm
he's
sorry, I keep interrupting you.
Oh, it's okay. We're both so excited. I'm like, I should shut up.
Not at all.
Dave Chappelle did a skit where he is Clayton Bigsby, and he is the blind white supremacist. And there is something that your dad did that was so much like that, and I'm just like, look, that's where it started. So, yeah.
Right.
Awesome.
Right. I agree. Like, I watch Chappelle and go, wow, that's like my dad, but later on.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Hear No Evil, See No Evil. Is that the other film that they...
Yeah, that wasn't the best movie.
I enjoyed it. I'm not going to lie. I totally enjoyed it.
That's hilarious.
One of them was blind and one of them was deaf.
I got to watch them film that. That was awesome.
Oh.
I was just going to ask you, with all the movies and stuff that he did, were you ever on the set of any of these films that he's
I was
now
there.
famous for?
I was on the set for Brewster's Million. I was on the set for Grease Lightning. I was on the set for See No Evil, Hear No Evil. Long Beach when he did that concert. And then I would go with him or my mom to the Comedy Store in Los Angeles.
Oh, my God.
And, be that kid that sat in the booth until like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning while they performed.
Oh, wow.
Wow. I hope reincarnation's
And
real.
that to me was like, I mean, that's all I know.
It's funny because I've been doing stand up since my daughter was 9 months old, and I've never taken her to a comedy club per se, but anytime I can take her where kids can go, like
Right.
coffee shops, or I've done a few charity events, and I always wonder, like, is it a good thing that I'm bringing her, or should I just be having her live like like a quasi normal childhood? But was that a
Right.
big influence on you as a child, watching
it's
your
funny
dad?
because I have a 4-year-old, so I don't bring her to my gigs all the time because I'm the same. I mean, what's funny is my mom's like, I brought you everywhere. Dad brought you everywhere. How come you don't bring Lotus everywhere? And I'm like, one, the scene has changed since then.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? It's like back in the day, as crazy as those comedians were, like I could sit there and I was fine and people looked after me. Nowadays, you're like, who's looking after my child? And I don't want them to, be anywhere near her. They're drunk or something. You know what I mean? So it's like the whole vibe, I think, at times have changed in that area,
Got to look out for
But I
flying
want
wine
her to know,
glasses.
like, I brought her to New York so she could see the theater and go, this is where Mommy does her work.
Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely. So to get back to what you're doing now, and definitely, I've never heard that, like in theater terms. That's a pretty big feather in your cap to sort of give them, I don't know, I guess a theater for a certain amount of time, indefinitely.
I mean, it was great. We did a preview, like I guess we did a small run here in April in New York City, and which was incredible. There was no publicity. There were only we were scared because the 2 days before the show there were only 30 tickets sold. Opening night sold out. Next night sold out.
Wow.
Wow.
It was just like one of those things, word of mouth and people tweeting and Facebook this time, and then the theater that gave us the indefinite run, they came to see it and then said, we'd like to now put you in our theater, which is like 175 seat, off-Broadway house that people know about, and it's freaky. Like, I'm like, okay, now are people going to show up? 55 seats is easy to pack.
Yeah.
Can I pack 175 seats and keep that going, over the weekend?
That sounds dreamy,
so
though.
it's exciting. Like my mom said, you've been preparing the show for 43 years.
Yeah.
But it's so funny that you say that, because I think everyone's interpretation of where everyone else is so out there. Like, I worry every time I'm in a show, like, no one's going to come, and you're Rain Pryor, and you've got that exact same angst. It seems like it never gets easier.
No. Yeah.
No, never. Because people still, I might be Rain Pryor, but there's so many people like, who's that? It's like,
You were alive in the
Pryor
80s.
again, and I'm like, oh, here's a comedian, I'm an actor, woohoo!
I was going to say, I used to watch you religiously on Head of the Class, because I'm 42
You're
years
awesome.
old. You are with Robin Givens and the guy who played Dr. Johnny Fever. I love that show.
Yep.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
It was. And
That was, you know what, those were good times. Those were good times.
That reminds me, I was going to ask her a quick question. You've been on TV, you've done theater, you've directed, you're a jazz singer, you've written a book. Out of all these things that you do, what would you say has been your favorite?
Theater.
Yeah.
Theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's funny, it's all the aspects of theater. I love directing. I had no idea that I would ever really love directing. I love it. Like, it feeds me. It's awesome because I just love actors. And I love bringing what they have out. Like, it's not about me. I want to bring the best out of you and make it look right.
That's awesome.
And I love the fact, like, I also am an artistic director of a theater in Baltimore. I just love what theater does. I love the smell of it. I love the aesthetic of what you can do, like the imagination. And, it's the one place you kind of got to be on because you don't get second take.
Yeah.
You don't get do-overs. And that's what I like that presence,
Yeah, theater's
And you
really
don't get
exciting.
heckled, so I love that.
Yeah.
Now, Rain, what do you think of kind of the darker turn that all the heckling bit? Did you read the thing with Tammy Pescatelli?
You know what? I look. I read the tweets, but I didn't read everything that happened. And I think it's a new culture now. You know, even when I performed in New Jersey and I was like heckled. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, you know, it was like hecklers were different back in the day, like my dad. Like, I think it's Long Beach or some concert, someone was heckling him, but it was so different back
I
then. And
remember
nowadays
that.
it's like everyone they just take it to that next.
Yeah.
They're just so rude.
Well, they're heckling the president of the United States now,
Yeah.
too. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not just
Right,
comedians,
exactly.
it's politicians.
It's like a sense of entitlement. You know,
It is.
her dad got heckled. I think it was that Sunset Strip show again. And somebody said something in the
Right.
crowd, and her dad said, "My dick."
Right?
It was over.
That's awesome.
It was, man. I was like, yes. And then I rewinded it.
Right.
It was good. I loved him. I really did.
You know, and then you have to always be quick now too in stand up, like having that comeback line.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not getting flustered. But I don't think people realize like you work on a routine, so you want to like. I don't think people get like what stand ups do. They just think anyone can get on stage and
Yeah.
like tell a joke.
They don't get it.
And it's like it's not that way. It's really a skill.
Yeah, you're
It
right.
is.
You know?
Nothing makes me more mad when I'm like in my groove and about ready to do the punchline, taking a beat, and then like someone yells something or
Right.
something happens. I'm like, oh,
Right.
You know, I've worked for years
Right.
on this one joke.
Yeah.
Shut
Shit
up.
threw me off.
It does,
Sucks.
right?
Yeah, it sucks. But it
And
doesn't
then I
it feel
just
good
want
when
to
you
choke them afterwards.
Yeah, me too. It feels good when you handle them though.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
It does feel good. And I like when people come back afterwards because they feel like such a-holes. You know, and
Yeah.
they're like, I'm sorry I was an asshole.
oh my God.
Or
Yeah.
something-
You know, please, I hope you'll forgive me. I'm just a little drunk. And you're like, a little.
I'm just an asshole.
Or sometimes they think they're comedy
Yeah.
helpers. Like,
Oh, geez.
you know, hey, I helped you with the show. No, you didn't.
What a jackass. Yeah. I love it when they heckle people and then they hug them afterwards. After they're really rude, they're like, hey, man, I'm your bro. Like, shut up.
Right,
Get out of
really?
my face.
Are you? Because you just fucked up my show, right?
Go drink some water. You know, I was on your YouTube page today, and I was just getting entertained for like an hour. And speaking of woman shows, your daughter Lotus,
Yes.
I saw that video that you put up where you ask her about Republicans and Democrats. Oh my God! Did you see this, Robin?
I did not.
Okay,
Go look
so
at
her
it.
daughter was like, how old? 2 at the time.
Sure, two. Yeah, she just turned two.
Yeah, so she asks her, tell me, Lotus, what do you think about Republicans? This is what she does. Republican, blah, 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 Republican, blah, 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 Republican. And just would go on and on. I'm like, that's Richard Pryor's grandbaby right there.
You know, what's so funny is like her dad is so smart. I really wanted her to be a scientist.
Yeah.
And so I got stuck with a performer.
Oh,
That's all
she
there to
is.
it. After that, I was like, there we go.
There
Here
is-
come the feather boas and the sparkles.
There's no way around it. She is.
Yeah.
And then when she asked her about
There's
school,
no kidding about it.
5-minute monologue about school.
Yeah.
About school.
Oh, yum, 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 school.
Oh, my gosh.
It was great.
She's great. She's pretty awesome.
Very cute.
I'm a lucky mama.
Yeah.
Very much. Well, Rain, thank you
Yeah.
so much for calling into our show.
Well, thank you for asking me to be on it.
Yeah.
Oh no, this is
That was really
this is a Quirky Bird highlight.
Yeah.
It's not the hugest Quirky Bird.
It's been so much fun talking to you.
It has anything that you want to
Likewise.
anything you want to plug. I mean the dates and the location of your show, the website.
Yes, it's at Actors Temple Theater, which is on 47th Street in New York between 8th and 9th Avenue, and tickets are available at telecharge.com
Nice.
under Off Broadway. And you can go to my website, follow me on Twitter, and it should be up there. And the show days are Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays.
Saturdays, Sundays,
Great.
and Mondays.
I plan on going to New York this year, so I'm going to go see it.
Good times.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Yeah, me too. More than you.
Road trip. Thanks, you guys.
Oh, thank you
Thank you,
so much,
Rain.
and thank you for calling in, Rain.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Have a great evening.
You too.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
This was
was so much
phenomenal.
fun.
Yeah, this was
Yeah.
awesome. I mean, we had 3 great guests.
Yeah,
and
3 curly-haired chicks talking shit at the same time. That was fun.
It was like The View
Yeah,
with
with things that weren't bitchy.
our friend Mary. Just said best show ever.
Aw,
Thanks.
that's Hey Lim Lim.
Hey, Lim Lim. Well, I think that's it. Well, we didn't really get a whole lot to banter. Do you have anything coming up? Anything that you would like to plug, my friend Charlotte?
I think that I get to do a guest set for the lovely Long Island Mary on Friday at Snappers. She is featuring for I can't remember.
Tim Kidd.
There we go.
Yeah, he's a Tampa, Florida favorite. I think actually he originally maybe started out here. High energy. I've never seen him, but I've heard nothing but good things about him.
Yeah, I can't wait. I think it's going to be lots of fun.
It is. It is. And I'll be at the Strass performing
Oh my
stand-up comedy with my pinky out.
I know. I wish I could go see
Saturday.
that. That would be awesome.
Yeah, good stuff. Good
I am
times.
so jealous.
And I believe you can call 813-229-STRAS to get tickets. I'll be at the Tico Theater. And yeah, I think that's it.
Rocket Robin.
You ready to send us out on our outro?
He's back there doing the worm on the floor.
You ready to send us out on our outro? Thank you very much. For those of you who listened, our new intro, it was funny, it was quirky. It was
Watch
the Quirky
out,
Bird
Steve
Show.
Harvey. I got my eye on you.
All right. So thank you guys very much, and we will see you next Tuesday at 8:30
Bye.
on the Quirky Bird Show. Bye-bye. She said, nice plug. Thanks, Sharsha.